Welcome back to the Compound Podcast. This is episode 236. 236 of the Compound Podcast, brought to you by Parse Rum. Our friends at Parse. Dakota decided that it was the perfect time of year to drink eggnog to promote Parse. So he's got it right there. It's disgusting. But you know what? With a little bit of Parse, it'll make it a lot better. Parse Rum, go to Binny's, get your Parse, 3-year, 8-year, 12-year Parse Rum.
Did you say 2-year?
12?
No.
3,
you
8,
said
12.
3, 8, 12. There you go. Okay. I thought you said 2, 8, 12. And I was like, I don't know.
Get some Parse. Give a gift of Parse for the holidays.
You said give the kids?
Give a gift of Parse.
Okay.
I heard kids too.
I got to open my ears up.
Don't give the kids Parse. Give the gift of Parse.
To an
This
adult.
holiday season.
Yes. 21
This episode, as every episode, will go out on Marquee Sports Network. We got some stuff to talk about. There were some signings, bunch of signings. Market's moving a little bit. Market's moving a little bit earlier this year. The winter meetings are December 10th and 11th. So we got those coming up in 10 days.
What goes on at those, Ian?
Yeah, I've never been to one.
I was like, I just never understood. Oh, Tom actually could be our guy.
It's actually the rare time that I'm the expertise on something. Yes, I've been in the winter meetings. I went to the winter meetings in 2018 when they were in Las Vegas. It's a super weird event. There's basically like two kind of parallel events going on at the same time. So there's like a whole credentialed media area and like GMs and people talking. And then a lot of happens at night at the bars. A lot of, things are going on. That's
over
like
some Parse rum.
And that's like the part that like most of the fans would be interested in, right? And that's when you think of the winter meetings, you're thinking about the GMs getting together and having some drinks and making deals, and free agents are there, their agents are there. It's a super weird event. Like, yeah, you see a lot of random people. Like, I flew in from New York and like John Heyman and all like the MLB reporters were on my flight. It was super weird. I think I might have told this story before, but I interviewed the Yankees at the winter meetings, and on my way back, there was a guy who came up to me on my flight back and was like, "Oh man, good to see you. Like, hope it works out." And I had no idea who he was real hungover, was just like, I don't know who this guy is and why he's talking to me. And then like halfway through the flight, I realized it was the guy I had interviewed with at the Yankees. And I was like, well, guess I don't get that job now. And that's why I was like trying to figure out a way to save it when I saw him on the way out. And I like came up with something and I was like, "Oh man, great to see you." Like, I don't think it worked, but I got the job. So I guess whatever I did was enough to not lose the job.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a whole aspect of that, of the players and the free agents and the GMs. And then there's also at the same time a convention going on. So like I met the Bush's Bean Dog. He was there. They just have like all these different sponsors and stuff. They're giving you stuff. There's a whole like a lot of it's like trying to get like for minor league teams, like new promotions they could do, food options, all these different things. And then there's also a job fair. So that was the part I went to. I went for the job fair, and there's like a whole room full of, I don't know, 800-900 people wanting jobs, and they just put up every day. Like there's all these boards of just sheets of jobs, and you go around applying to them. And it's a super weird circus, and especially going to the one in Vegas was like, it was that on steroids. But super cool experience. Would never go back. Glad I did it once. But yeah, it's a really weird. It's kind of like almost a vestige from the past. Like it doesn't really make a lot of sense anymore, but it's this weird 3-ring circus of all these different things going on. And I remember walking through the floor and you see Teixeira and the ESPN crew on one side and the MLB network people over there. And you're just constantly running into people from baseball. So that part's super cool.
That's what I was going to say. I don't get why, like, it is cool that it's old school, but it's like, why don't you just post these jobs online and I don't have to fly to Las Vegas to apply for this? Like, it seems a lot easier of a process now.
Well, yeah, I remember I went specifically to try to get a minor league baseball broadcasting job, and it turned out that most of the minor league baseball broadcasting jobs were like secretly negotiated beforehand, or like you needed to go there with interviews. And so I went and was just having a real bad time. And I remember I stayed until 3:00. I was going to stay till my buddy had an interview at 3:00, and I hadn't got a phone call from anybody. And I was like, well, glad I spent like my last $600 on this flight to Vegas to not get anything. And the Yankees called at 2:58 and were like, "Can you interview at 3:15?" But it was at a different hotel, maybe like a mile down the strip. And I was like, all right, here we go. And just like took off in my suit and started running. Basically had to sprint all the way to the Delano, the next hotel over, to get to my interview with the Yankees. And it was like, I will say, probably the coolest moment of my life was where I was like, I thought I wasted all this money, and then I picked up the phone and it was the New York Yankees. So it
That's
was
awesome.
one of those things where
That
you're like,
is
man,
sick.
this is why you do it. It is cool. So it's a very weird event, but it does seem like it is where like a lot of teams wait to make decisions until then because I think they feel like that's the environment in which you can start have those conversations.
And so every team will get like a suite and they'll have like their front office there. And so agents will come up and they'll talk about their players or run them through the list of players that they have. And then other teams, they'll get together if it's trade or trying to figure out who's available, who do you want to trade, who you're trying to move. So that's why inevitably a deal or two gets done during the winter meetings because everybody's there in the same place.
And it's warm, and there's golf, and there's drinks, and they know how to do it. They're smart. They're not sending it to Nova Scotia. They're putting it in warm weather climates in the winter and having a good time.
Yeah, the other part of it, because our clubhouse staff goes, like Danny Mueller, and because all of the companies are there. So the companies who make, whether it's the helmets or the travel bags or like the gloves or whoever. So all of the vendors are there. And so they go to see those guys and see the new stuff of what they might buy for the clubhouse or whatever. And I think medical staff goes too, because I think that there's some like medical showcase and stuff like that for like all the
There's like
treatments or
panels and stuff too. I didn't know how deep you want to get into this. There's like panels. There's a lot going on. That's your part you're talking about is like the convention part, and that's
yeah.
just a huge space with like 4 days worth of people, and it's insane. There's like hats guys. I got into a long conversation with a hat guy one time, explaining all the differences between the hats. Didn't realize there was so much into hats. You don't realize how much thought goes into all these things until you start talking to the people around it.
Before the winter meetings, we had Snell sign with the Dodgers, 5 for 182. He gets that short deal after waiting all year last year, and then goes first this year, signs a nice deal, some forever money. But he was really good. He was really good again. You look at the numbers. I mean, that's good for the Dodgers.
I think two things. One, another deferred contract, same as Tommy Edmonds, who we'll get to. But two, like you have to think that's less than he was offered last offseason, right? It has to be. Coming off a Cy Young last offseason, like 5 for 182, ton of money, but that has to be less than like what teams were offering last year. He had to have $200 million contracts last year in his hand.
Yeah,
right?
but if you put it together, because what did he make last year? 30? Let me quickly fact check myself. He made 32 last year. So you add that to this, 6 for 214. Not bad.
6 for 214. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I would imagine he had more than that offered to him last year. I don't know that for a fact, and that's a complete guess, but I don't know. Coming off of Cy Young, lefty, I feel like he had to have left money.
You know, the other interesting thing about the contract is that yes, there is a decent amount of deferment in it, but the signing bonus up front is also crazy.
The Dodgers are playing with monopoly money. It's fake.
It's 65 million of deferrals, but it's also a $52 million signing bonus.
But like in 8 years, they're going to be paying Shohei and Edman and Blake Snell billions of dollars.
Is it, again, I don't know anything
Oscar
about
too.
contracts. Is it just like it's somebody else's problem down the road?
Yeah, Ian,
Well,
explain like how that works, because I don't get it. I'm like, wait, so they just like pay him later? Like they still owe all this money.
The one thing about the deferments that works in their favor is that they'll take whatever money that is, they'll set it aside, and then they'll just collect interest on it, So they'll be collecting interest at, I don't know what their number is that they're getting on the interest, but you got to think they're getting 4 or 5% a year minimum on that money. So it gives them time to pay it off. They're making money on the money. There's a business way that it works, especially obviously for the Shohei deal where he's making a bunch of money in sponsorship and endorsement. But it is interesting the strategy that they're going with. They extended Tommy Edman 5 for 74 with some deferment. Friend of the pod, Tommy Edman. So it's good for him too. It's awesome. I think they just keep. Well,
not technically. Friend of you love him.
He's not my. I'll make it clear. He's not my friend. He might be your friend.
My friend of the pod, Tommy Edman. And so the Dodgers they keep going. They're adding guys. We've heard that the Mets are active. We've heard that The Red Sox and the Yankees are active, but Dodgers have already signed a few people after coming off World Series. So
I'm gonna call
they
Tommy
could go.
Edman our white whale. Of if we have him on, I would just tell him how much Ian loves him, and that's all I'd say. I'd be like, just so you know, like Ian Sneaky has like a man crush on you, like he loves you, he
High on
wants to
Tommy
be
Edman.
you.
What percent do agents get? I mean, I was happy for Ian that he's, not that he doesn't have enough money, but he's getting a cut of this contract new as Tommy Edmonds' agent. I was like, 74 mil. That's a nice little whatever that is, 4 or 5%. That's nice for Ian, another revenue stream.
I hope that I talked him up enough so the Dodgers said, yeah, we got to lock that guy up. He's unbelievable.
I think you got him from you got him from 4 years to 5. They gave him that 5th year after hearing you talk about.
Yeah, because of me. I appreciate that.
100%.
So those 2 deals for the Dodgers, and then we got Frankie Montas to the Mets, 2 for 34, and Boyd to the Cubbies, 2 for 29.
The Montas one surprised me. I'll be the one to say it. Little more than I expected from someone that hasn't had the most stellar numbers of all time. But I mean, Steve Cohen's got money and he's going to spend it to try to make his team a winner.
It's very nice way of saying he's been pretty bad for a decent amount of years now.
Well, I didn't know if I didn't want to like be mean, but I was like, I mean, who am I to talk? But I'm like, I was very surprised he got that much money. Like you said, Tom, he hasn't been great to be getting, what was it, 2 for 34?
2 for 34. Yeah, he has pitched.
True.
He logged 30 outings, 30 starts last year. It was a 4.84. I think the metrics like him a lot because I think when he was a Brewer,
I was gonna say he punched a decent amount when he was in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I think the metrics liked him a lot. And when he went to Milwaukee, you see it's 57 innings in Milwaukee with 70 punch outs and 25 walks. The Ks per nine were definitely there. It was 11 Ks per nine. The walks were actually the same or lower than they had been in the last couple of years. So I think people are looking at those numbers and what he did in Milwaukee with that pitch mix and saying like, okay, there's some swing and miss there. Maybe it came along as he made more starts. You might be able to break it down even farther because he made 11 starts with Milwaukee, maybe like the last, 6 or 8, like really, really good. And the pitch mix changed.
I'll give you, I agree with you a lot on that. The best example I think of is like Sonny Gray. When he went to the Yankees, struggled a ton, went to the Reds, and he was Sonny Gray again. And it was like, oh, this guy's still gross. Like, so maybe it's something the Mets are like, hey, we think we can add this pitch or like tweak this pitch and like he's going to be dialed like on, and then we have him at a bargain for 17 a year. So that is definitely something like you said of like when you look at the data and analytics side, like they see something like, oh, if we can add a whatever it may be, like a cutter, it's like, hey, we think you can dominate.
So I'm biased as a Yankee fan. He got traded to the Yankees in 22 and was just not had an ERA in the 6s. Sorry, he was awful. And then hurt his shoulder, was out all of 2023, except I think he made one appearance in Toronto at the end of the year through an inning and a third, and then signed the contract with the Reds and was, at least by my metrics, bad. So I sure you could talk yourself into prior to 2022, he had a couple pretty good years in there with Oakland, but it seems like he's going to turn 32 before the season starts. He's had the injury issues. The numbers have not been very good over the last, whatever the baseline numbers have not been good. Obviously, I don't have all these sabermetrics in front of me, but the Mets clearly saw something they liked, and the Mets have been pretty good at finding guys like this. They've had some success in contracts like this. So I do think, and Stearns, obviously, former Milwaukee guy, I'm sure I had some conversation. So I understand it. I do agree with Dakota. At this point in the offseason, I'm surprised the number, but Uncle Stevie's got money and Uncle Stevie's not afraid to spend it. So
I think that's where back to Ian's point again of similar case, Sean Manaea was someone where when the Mets signed him, he was coming off some tough years and they drop his arm slot and it's is this guy Chris Sale Jr.? He's unbelievable and he opts out and he's going to get a huge deal.
Even Severino was nasty this year, bro.
For sure. That's why
Severino was the guy I was thinking about. They did it really, and they've done that with a lot of guys for the last 5 years.
I mean, the money I think is what surprised me. So
yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you look at Jose Quintana too, who Jose Quintana was a Cubby, obviously had a great career with the White Sox before us, and had a really good first half when we signed him, and then was available and pitched a ton, but struggled a little bit, and had a couple years there where he was trying to figure it out in a couple of different places, and then had a pretty good year in 22 between Pittsburgh and St. Louis, and the last years with the Mets. This year with the Mets at 35 years old, he made 31 starts, 170 innings with 3.86. So like they have figured out a way with some of these guys to really find some value, and some depth in that starting rotation, and I think they're trying to recreate that. And they've spent a ton of money. They can't keep, they're going to keep bringing in talent, but they have to find a way to fill out the roster with some other guys that aren't, frontline aces, because they're paying a bunch of money in other spots.
I know they're another team that's playing with monopoly money, but like, could they afford? I mean, they could, but like, do you see them signing both Soto and like re-signing Pete Alonso, or is it like, oh, if they get Soto, Alonso's probably going elsewhere?
That's what I would assume. I would assume it's one or the other. I think if they're in the Soto running, if they don't get Soto, they probably pivot to one of the first basemen, whether that's Alonso or
Our guy, Christian Walker.
Christian Walker. Yeah. You could, I mean, Santander's out there. If they don't get Soto, maybe Santander makes sense. I think they're going to add. You start looking around the field where the money's being spent. They're going to get one of those guys. I think it's going to be a pretty competitive running for Soto.
I don't see a world where Steve Cohen lets like no big guy, like he'll go to a crazy number to get one of the big guys. Like if he has to overpay by 50 million in an extra year, he'll do it to get that extra, or to get that guy.
I would like to be a fly on the wall during those meetings when they come to the numbers and the logistics.
Do you think agents like go in there knowing like, hey, this guy, like, depending on who you're talking to, like if you're talking to like the Oakland A's, it's like, all right, like they're not going to give us a huge offer, but it's like, hey, if we're talking to Steve Cohen, like we could probably ask for a little more than you're even worth, and like he'll consider it, or like meet us in the middle. Like they have to think that way, right? As agents.
Yeah, but they're not talking directly to Stern or to Steve Cohen. I think it's more Stearns and what he wants to do, and he has a history of putting out really good teams in Milwaukee, and I think he's trying to form that team up he's probably trying to fight a little bit of that dynamic, right? Where it's like, well, you'll just pay us whatever. It's like, no, we're going to pay you same as everybody else.
Reasonable amount. Yeah.
Maybe a tiny bit more, but nothing crazy. But yeah, this is only his second year there, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Does it surprise you that the Red Sox are in on Juan Soto?
No, because they obviously paid Devers. They paid Devers a lot of money, but they haven't spent a ton outside of that in the last couple of years.
True.
And so I think it was just a matter of time before they started spending again, and because they've run big payrolls with that same ownership group, and I feel like they're in a place with their pitching staff now where they can go out and spend some money on bats and be competitive in the AL East.
I view if Soto were to go to the Red Sox, I just view it as a very similar to the Yankees situation of you have Devers and Soto, and then it's like, all right, who else is going to help? Like it was Judge and Soto, and it's like, who else is going to help? It's like, all right, we got Devers and Soto, but like, where does the rest of the production come from?
That was going to be my question. Do we think the Red Sox are just a Juan Soto away from really being contenders? I don't feel that way right now. I kind of think that Scott Boras going, how do I make the Yankees pay $600 million for Juan Soto? Oh, hey, Yankees, the two teams that are interested are the Red Sox and Mets. Go back to your fans and say, sorry, we let Juan Soto go to the Red Sox. Like, imagine how that'll play in the Bronx. I think that's some swift negotiating.
We talk about it a lot, Tom, and or you've said it a lot, Tom, but like this is another one where like if George Steinbrenner's there, he would never let it happen. He'd be like, I don't care what the Red Sox offer. They're not getting Juan Soto over us. Like, I will pay more. It doesn't matter.
But you don't think that's a similar situation with Cohen?
No, I agree. But I agree. I just think Mets, Yankees, I guess that's pretty similar. I was going to say it's different than like Yankees, Red Sox, but two New York teams, like that would still crush Yankees fans.
It's a little different though. My dad said last night, I was talking about it with my dad, and he said, I'm okay if he goes to the Mets. If he goes to the Red Sox, I'm going to be losing my mind.
Especially if he goes to the Mets and it's like an absurd amount of money and you're like, okay, like if he gets $650 million from Steve Cohen for 14 years, it's like, all right, like what can we really do about that? Offer $700 million? Like we got to kind of tip our cap.
It'll be very interesting. Hopefully we get some more clarity in the next 10 days, because it would be great for the market if he kind of around the winter meetings here, makes a decision and signs, then everything else would hopefully start moving as
Do
well
you
on the
think,
position player side.
Ian, I'm curious, do you think those type of guys each year in free agency feel that pressure of like, I need to sign so other guys can like get their lives sorted, or do you think that doesn't even cross their minds? Because you know what I mean? Like you wait for the big guy to fall before the other outfielders or whatever position it may be start to fall, because then teams are like, all right, what's our backup plan? Now we're going to pay this guy since we didn't get Soto.
Yeah, I think there's probably some guys who think that way and think like, hey, like let's get our best offer and let's get out of the way so this thing can start moving. But I'm sure there's also the flip side of that is like you worked your whole life to be the best player at the top of the market in free agency. Like you have to do whatever it is that's going to get you paid the most money and in the place where you're happy. So
True.
I don't think any players hold it against any other guys for not signing. It definitely stirs up people's markets, and like there's going to be a handful of outfitters this year who are going to be waiting. And even like the Jock Petersons of the world and like guys that are like, hey, I have to wait until all these teams make these decisions. And so, but I don't think everybody's like, yeah, man, you worked for it, go get yourself the most money.
And you've never gone through like free agency. So I guess just from what you've heard from others, like, do these other guys even get offers? Like, does Jock Peterson, I'm sure from like other teams that aren't in the Soto running, but like, are the Yankees, even if they're not considering Jock Peterson, like, are they making him an offer even though they're also going for Juan Soto? Or is it kind of like, hey, we'll talk to you in a month or 2 weeks when we hear what's going on with Soto?
I think it's more of that. And I think I think teams kick the tires and they talk and they say, hey, we're interested, we're here, we're around, like, we'll let you know. But I don't think guys are writing offers until some of the other decisions have been made. And maybe like I just read something about Jock and the Diamondbacks. Like Diamondbacks interested in bringing him back. Like obviously the Diamondbacks aren't in that Soto conversation. Maybe they have to figure out if is Christian Walker might come back there, or would they ever go after a guy like Santander? But they're like, hey, Jock, we'd love to have you back. You absolutely dominate right-handed pitching, and we'd love to do the same thing. Like, yeah, maybe they'll write him an offer in the next couple of weeks. Like, it's very possible.
Yeah, I just figured, like you said, like those bigger teams, Mets, Yankees, Red Sox, like they're not really making other offers until they see what Soto decides, because they don't want to all of a sudden have him accept it and be like, we don't have the money for him.
Shoot. It's also probably the same thing where if let's say that you have an offer from the Diamondbacks, but the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Orioles might be interested, like now you could be negotiating with 4 different teams. Say, well, these teams can, so like you want to wait as a player too to say like, hey, let's see where the market is, instead of just taking that one offer and coming back later and being like, crap, if we could have had 3 teams like, bidding on this.
Diamondbacks offer you whatever 4 for 80, and then you just go to the Yankees and be like, hey, this is what they're offering me, and then they're like, all right, 4 for 100. Like you just play them against each other, and
you're like, perfect.
That's great.
So the Cubs also signed Matt Boyd, 2 for 29.
Ex ZS teammate.
ZS teammate.
He's great. He is, Ian, I don't know if you've ever talked to him much, but he is one of, if not the nicest humans on the face of the earth. Almost too nice. Where it's like, boy, let me see you flip somebody off right now. I dare you. But he's great, man. And again, he's battled some injuries, but he threw pretty well in the postseason. He punched a bunch of guys. I hope he can stay healthy. When he's on, and it seems like that he kind of had a new revelation, and I think with his slider or sweeper. He's missing bats, man. Like I think his ceiling is a little bit higher than what people think, in my opinion.
How old is he?
I think he's 33.
Okay.
Yeah, 33 turning 34. So he'll be 34 going into this year. It's a 2-year deal. We faced him. He was with the Guardians this year. We faced him one of his first starts back from injury, and he was really good. He was really, really good. I didn't enjoy facing him. And it was a 10.4 strikeout per 9. So he had the punch. He wasn't walking guys. The numbers looked really good. Obviously, Cleveland has done a really good job with pitching, and I'm sure he learned a lot while he was there. But
he was nails in that last postseason game he started, right? Wasn't he? Didn't he go like 5 shutty or 6 shutty or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was really good, and he was really good for them the whole way. Like there was no real blips. He made 1 start, went 5 innings, 1 earned, 2 hits. with 4 punch-outs against the Yankees, and he made 2 starts in that series against Detroit.
I think his second one, he was really good.
He didn't allow any runs in that Detroit
Yeah.
series. So yeah, pretty good stuff, and it's exciting for us. He's done a little bit of bullpen work too. The one year with Seattle, he threw 10
That was
games.
when he was coming out of. I think he was hurt, wasn't he?
I'm not sure. That was 22, 10 games out of the pen. He had a 1.35, pretty good. But yeah, so we'll see. That would make 3 lefties in our rotation at a minimum. Yeah, so that's it'll be interesting to see how they split those guys up too. And their mixes are all different. They all have some different dynamics to them as left-handed pitchers and angles and stuff. But it'll be interesting to see how they split those guys up.
2 questions. First one, so it's Steele, Shota, him, Tyon. Is the 5th one a competition, or is there a 5th one I'm missing? Assad?
The 5th one would be like Assad, Wicks.
Kind of a competition in spring.
Yeah, Cade Horton.
Oh, yeah. Second question. I think we've talked about this before, but have you personally, or do you know of anyone on the team that has been involved in hey, we're trying to get this guy, can you give him a call? If you have a relationship with the person, obviously first, but have you ever been in that situation where they're hey, just talk to this guy, tell him what Chicago's like, tell him what it's like here in the summer, blah, blah, blah.
I have not from the team. I have I've talked to players. I've talked
just
to guys
on your own accord.
Yeah, I talked to Dansby when he was thinking about looking at places, just to say hey man, this place is great. But I haven't really been and I've had some guys reach out to me about, hey, might have an offer here, what do you think, type of thing. But I haven't had the team be go talk to this guy.
I wonder, do you know, does that happen? I don't know, not just in the Cubs, but any team, does that happen often of I'm sure hey, Aaron Judge, get on the horn with Juan Soto and tell him, hey man, don't you want to run this back? We were really close. They got to do that, right?
Yeah, I'm sure it happens a lot. And I'm sure there's you have friends or buddies that you've played with and you want them to come and be a part of teams. So I think that's the one thing about playing in only one organization is I haven't had a ton of
Haven't really had much crossover.
Yeah, I haven't had a ton of crossover. Because if I would have played with the guy, he would already have seen what it's like to play in Chicago, But I know guys from other organizations, for example, Dansby, played with the Atlanta guys, and if it would be Darno or somebody where he would be hey, I'm gonna call that guy because I want him to be a Cub, something like that, There's definitely talk. I remember when Arrieta came back and talking to him a little bit about it when he was looking at a couple of different teams, stuff like that. But
long story short, you've been on the phone with Rizzo is what we're hearing.
Yeah, Tony,
this Chicago place is pretty cool, man.
I don't know if you ever seen it, man.
I think you'd like it. I think Cubs. I'm not saying it'll have it's even any smoke or anything, but I just think Cubs fans would know what to do with themselves if that happened with joy.
They would absolutely eat it up.
Oh, get the band back together. Trade for KB. Sign Rizzo. There you go.
Javi, come on, bring them all back.
Sure.
This episode's brought to you by SeatGeek. 28 million downloads. SeatGeek's #1 rated ticketing app. More than 70,000 events every single day in the app, including sports, concerts, festivals, and more. They rate every ticket on a scale of 1 to 10, so you're getting a good deal. Green means good, red means bad. Go for the green. Code COMPOUND10 is going to get you 10% off your next order, 10% off any tickets on SeatGeek. Compound 10. SeatGeek sponsoring the free agent corner there.
Hot stove.
Zach, how are we? This might have to get cut. Zach, how's your free agency going? If you don't want to talk about it, we cannot talk about it. Just how it. What?
Yeah, I mean,
this is your first full your pick of the litter. Not it's not all 30 teams calling.
I wish I had pick of the litter.
It's not every team calling, but what is it like getting phone calls and gauging interest from teams and how much smoke and mirrors it is? Oh, we really love you, and it's well, how much?
Yeah.
Do you really love me? Do I have a show? That kind of stuff. That kind of talk.
Yeah, you. I mean, it's tough because you kind of have to do your homework on who's there, who would be blocking you potentially, who could get moved, where if you start in AAA or if you have a chance to break with the team. and again, like my position is kind of unique because I am, a backup infielder right now, and it seems like a lot of teams can use people like that. Um, but it's tough because it's like you want an opportunity, but on the other side, it's like, all right, well, if there's a chance to be in the big leagues as a backup, like that's obviously the goal as well, like to be in the big leagues. But um,
You also want some
you want,
consistency of like
for
playing
sure.
and getting
Yeah,
at
right.
bats. Yeah.
Exactly. But again, when you're, 29, turning 30, there's not many opportunities like that. But I'm in a pretty fortunate situation right now where I have a decent amount of interest. But it's funny like how I'm almost directly affected by Soto on the bigger guys too. If a team wants, say, Soto, and they get him, they're not really spending anywhere else. They're not going to spend on another third baseman, on a second baseman, or a shortstop. They're going to, kind of pivot the cheaper route, I would have to imagine. And then if they don't, they can kind of sprinkle a little money at each position, and that kind of blocks me a little bit. Um,
For
but
sure.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting. You just, I haven't really tried to be that involved.
That's where it helps having an agent, right? Of like you're not
Yeah.
on every phone call, and like it's more obviously you've talked to teams yourself, but
Yeah.
it's not as like they're not talking contract details with you. That's like that's
No.
what I got an agent for. Like you just tell me if you think I got a shot of playing on your big league team at some
That's
point.
it. Yeah. And again, I've had some good conversations with some guys, which has been great. So again, kind of the same situation that I felt like I had with the Mets last year. It's like, all I want, just give me a chance to win a spot in spring, like I did last year with the Mets, and I'll feel pretty confident about going anywhere.
Well, can I fill off Zach a little bit here?
100%. I
Thank
would
you.
love nothing more than that.
Yep. A lot of teams, what Zach isn't saying is that he can play shortstop at the big league level. And there's not a lot of guys that can play shortstop from a defensive side at the big league level. So having a guy on your roster who's able to play shortstop is like a huge advantage because you can have a fourth infielder, say you have your second short and third baseman, you can have an extra infielder on the roster, but there's many times where that guy can't play shortstop. And so if your second baseman can't bounce to short very easily, then you're kind of in a situation where if your shortstop goes down, you're playing someone out of position or you have to call somebody up. And so what makes Zach so valuable is that he can play shortstop tomorrow at the big league level and be very, very good at it. And so that makes him a huge asset to a team to say, okay, maybe this guy can win a job at second or third, but worst case scenario, he's on a roster, he can play shortstop for us. And so I'm sure for you, you're weighing, okay, do I want to go to a team where I'm going to be coming off the bench, but if the shortstop goes down, I'm going to get stuck in there every day? Or do I want to go to a team where I can win the job at second base or third base and have that
Yeah.
opportunity?
No, it's tough because you also have to have like the realist, kind of viewpoint from it too, where it's like, all right, yeah, I hope I get a little opportunity to break with the team and win a job, but they're going to give their guys on the roster, their guys coming up, first looks, which is again standard anywhere, and that's completely fine with that. But yeah, again, the ability to play shortstop is definitely, it's funny, like I never really thought about it until I think I got to the big leagues, really, where I was just like, yeah, I like playing shortstop. It's my favorite position, whatever. And then, the more you are around kind of big league transactions and like you said, the ability to play shortstop you can kind of, it's the same thing as like center field, like Ian, you played center field for a while. Like the
And
middle of the field is pretty dynamic.
well, and you showed because you didn't play a ton of third like coming up, and you showed last year when Riley went down, like, hey, I can play third too, and like second,
Yeah.
probably realistically the easiest of the three. Like just the ability to play all three of those, like Ian said, like that's very valuable to a lot of teams of, hey, we can plug and play him anywhere. And realistically, in a pinch, like you haven't done it a ton, but like you could play left or right field if you had
Right.
to and be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Probably not center field at Principal Park though in Iowa because you get balls lost in the lights there.
Yeah, standing there, just like, but yeah, for sure.
Is it more like fun or like kind of cool, like having teams be like, we want you, or is it more like anxiety of like, man, I want the right opportunity, but I kind of want it to just be over with so I know where I'm going?
It's kind of both, where it's like, okay, today there's a few places that look great on paper, but then say I signed today, tomorrow they could sign 2 or 3 other guys, and it's like, well, that doesn't look as good as I thought it was.
And it's tough not waiting like too
Yeah, like
long.
I'm not waiting. I would rather be in a bad situation and come, spring, opposed to just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, where I'm
and
like,
have
listen,
like
I
nothing.
don't really,
Yeah,
again, the realist, like I don't have the back of the baseball card to wait as long as other people do, and I don't want to do that.
for sure.
Yeah, there's a life element.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask how much of that is like, how much are you talking to your agent? How much you talk, like, how do you weigh that decision? Like, how much are you talking to Fallon? Like, I'm sure you have a lot of people in your life that you're trying to bounce off of,
Yeah,
but it's got to be hard to like, weigh all those options too.
100%. And honestly, I've never played close to home before, and up until last year with the Mets, like that was a completely different world to me. And again, I was there for a month, but just like being close
Living at
to
home
home,
and being able to drive to the game meant
yeah,
a lot to
like
you.
it was just like a different aspect. And God forbid something happens, like I'm right here. And even like, you know, I always complain about a Florida spring, but like Fallon and my dog were able to drive down last year where, they stayed for a few weeks at a time. Like spring can get pretty dark, man, and it's nice to see people where, again, that's not a deciding factor, but it's nice sometimes to be close to home or to even just be in the general area. Like again, Toledo, Detroit, Chicago, like that wasn't very far for me, or Iowa, whatever. But living on a different time zone, like 2 or 3 different time zones, is tough. It is. Like Ian, your mom lives in that Pittsburgh, Cleveland area, right? Like you're close
Ohio.
enough. Like yeah,
She lives in
I mean,
Columbus.
yeah. Did I said
You said Pittsburgh, Cleveland.
Yeah, it's
Columbus,
close.
Cleveland? It's
Close.
close enough.
Yeah, I mean I felt it when I got drafted and we were in Eugene. That 3 hour
Yeah.
time difference to the East Coast, like that's tough. Maybe
It
even
is.
when you go on a 10-day trip on the West Coast, and you're trying to catch up with family, whether it's Central or East, like it's hard. It's
Yeah, I mean, your
challenging.
phone, like for me, like my group messages, family group messages, they're like halfway done with their day, and I'm just
Yeah, and
opening
you're
my
just waking
eyes, and
up and
you're
you're
like,
like, what's happening?
wait, what? But yeah, no, it's obviously I would like I don't want to say different situation, but kind of just where I'm at, and like you said, kind of making the best out of it, and hopefully I make the best decision for the
But
future.
it does have to be like encouraging, like going into the unknown, coming into the off season. And now like you're in the off season and like you've told me like multiple teams have reached out and it's like, okay, cool. Like we are like teams do like me. It's not like you're sitting there like I've gotten 0 phone calls. It's like, all right, like we
No,
have options.
yeah, and again, like I've said it before, like last year was kind of a dark season. Just kind of how high it started, and then just kind of where I went. If someone told me like, hey, we're not getting many phone calls, I would have been like, yeah, I mean, I understand it. But then on the other side, it's like, hey, we have a lot of interest. It's like, yeah, I understand it. Like I
Yeah.
get it. It's just, yeah, it's just a weird situation. Like I've never been there. I've never been outrighted before. It was just again a first time for a lot of things in this game that I've played for a long time, and I've been on the business aspect of it before, and I haven't been on this business aspect of it before, and it's a little different, but it is, it's encouraging, like you said, but it's a little different, but hopefully things start to happen soon.
How much are you? Because I know you pretty well to know how your mind works. How much are you in contact with your agent? Like, how much are you like, I'm trying to stay out of this, or how much are you like? Because I know you and I have a lot of the same anxieties, and I
Yeah.
know how I would feel if I was in your spot. That like, as you said, this is exciting. There's all these possibilities, but you want to know where you're going at some point
Yeah.
as well. How much are you like trying to just be like, I'm just gonna keep preparing as if I'm not worried about that, and how much you like, I'm trying to talk to my agent and like have those conversations so I have the ability to make an informed decision when it comes time to make that decision.
Yeah. I, I've always felt, I think I've wavered a little bit on, like I've always, or in the past, like I've had my agent like reach out to the front office, like, hey, like, what do they got? I'm like more so in the minor leagues, like, hey, what do they got on me? Like, where do I stand? And like at the end of the day, it really doesn't do any good. Like they're gonna either tell you what you want to hear or tell you what you already know. Like again, I was fortunate enough, I basically played every day in the minor leagues coming up. I hit, first, second, wherever, and it was just like what like if you just read between the lines, like, hey, they obviously, they like you. Like just play. And that's what I kind of told them at the beginning of this offseason. I was like, hey, like let me know if teams are interested. And like one of the first days that they could talk to, like they were, reading the list off. It was like, all right, that's great, and it was still early. But I think now over the last week or so, I've kind of talked a little more just because I've had some questions, but I haven't really been like, hey, let me know every single time you talk to a team. Like, I don't know, hey, give me, the spark notes on what they say and um what I can do to potentially help a team.
Well,
And
that's where
it's
like
nice. Yeah, go ahead.
that's where like the agent helps of like reading through the BS of like if they just
Yeah.
call and be like, hey, what's he thinking? Or like if it's just a call, it's not worth it. Like he doesn't need to bother you with that and get your mind racing on like, well,
Yeah,
why are they
and they
checking in?
know
Like,
right, and they know
yeah,
they know how I operate too. It's nice because, like you said, I've had a few talks with a few guys, which was great because then I can just ask the questions and I can be, again, still a business at the end of the day. They may be telling me things that I just want to hear, which is fine, and I understand it. But again, you kind of have to read between the lines too, and kind of have to do your own homework with who's there, who's leaving, who can play whatever position.
like if they're top prospects at shortstop and AAA, it's like, all right, well,
Yeah, and he's knocking on the
probably,
door. It's like, all right,
yeah,
well, okay.
not the best
But
spot
yeah, but again, like Ian said, like that backup role is very valuable.
for
And
sure.
I almost, I not almost, I wish I did a better job of it last year in Atlanta, where all I had to do was just catch the ball and throw the ball, and I would have, realistically still been there. But it's hard. Like it's a hard
Hard job.
job to do when you are really not playing. Again, if you get mixed in once or twice a week, I think that's a little bit different than. But again, Atlanta is such a unique situation because they've paid every single player on their roster. So it's like, hey, we're not going to sit X, Y, and Z, and we have one of the best DHs in baseball. So you can't even give them a day off and have them just DH. So, hey, man, just sit here and smile and wave until your name is called. So
Become friends with Chris Sale.
yeah, exactly. Get him on the pod. But yeah, no, it's I've tried to not allow myself as best as I could to get anxious about it. I think I've done a pretty good job of staying out of it and not really been like whatever, freaking out about it. But again, all I want, like I said before, is just get me a chance to go to spring and either win a job or put myself in a position for other teams.
For sure.
Last topic I want to touch on. Brought to you by Bruce Bolt. BruceBolt.us. Go to Bruce Bolt. 40% off protective right now is the Black Friday deal. Use code HAP. Code HAP at checkout. BruceBolt.us. Go get your batting gloves for this winter, for next spring. BruceBolt.us. So this came up. I was sent this. I think Manfred floated this golden bat rule. Okay. Each team gets to pick one at bat at any point in the game, but only one time to play its golden at bat card. So you can let any hitter at any time go and take that one at bat.
Even if they're like on base, like what if Aaron Judge is on second base?
You just pull them off.
We going ghost runner, or are we putting someone out there?
So you can. So it seems like what you could do is if like, let's say that your leadoff hitter was up and Soto's hitting second, you could put Soto in the leadoff spot, and if he gets out, he's hitting again because he's next in the order.
What if he gets on? Then what happens? Does he still hit?
Maybe he gets a pinch runner.
It seems like he would get a pinch runner because I think the idea is that, like, hypothetically, the Yankees could have bases loaded, nobody out, down by 4,
You go
and
Soto,
you got the
Soto.
9 hitter up, and you're like, oh, let's put Aaron Judge in. And then, we'll hit him. And then if he could bat, as Ian said, twice in a row. We talked about this a little bit before the show. I said it seems very Savannah Banana-ease, which I don't even, no disrespect to the Savannah Bananas. I think they're doing a lot of great things for baseball. I also don't think we need to make that part of Major League Baseball. Like if guys start coming out wearing top hats and cutoff jerseys, I don't think that's great either. So I don't really. The second you said play the card, I think we've lost the plot. We don't need to start playing cards in baseball. To play the golden card, the golden bat card, just seems insane.
I'm scared they're gonna do this how they've done like every other like possible new rule and like try it in like the fall league and try it in like AAA and see what happens. There's just no way though, right? Ian, come on, PA, help us out here.
What are we doing?
We kiss. This isn't real.
There's no way. There's no way. But it is. I guess the counter argument would be like football or basketball. Like if Tom Brady is driving down the field, Tom Brady is getting snapped the ball every play. If the Lakers are trying to make a comeback, LeBron starts with the ball every possession.
And I know you're playing.
I
know you're playing devil's advocate here, but it's apples and oranges. Like we play a different sport. Like it's different sports. Like what do you mean?
I'm all set with this topic and this card. We can just put that card right back into the deck and draw another one, right?
I need you fighting this, Happer.
Yeah, it's a horrible thing that'll never happen.
Okay, you guarantee that as a PA member?
Stamp it, guarantee it. No,
I will say though, because everyone said this. I remember when they tested in the Frontier League, they called it the international rule at the time. The guy on second base, and I was like, this will never happen. This is so dumb. All the fans hated it. And you tried to explain to the fans, everyone was like, what? Why is it? So I will say crazier things have happened, but it seems like I think like the baseball traditionalists and the historians would lose their minds and like riot if this happens. I just don't think it's gonna ever.
Like this is going too far away from like the integrity of the game of like, let's just have our best hitters hit every time. It's like, well, then why don't we just have Aaron Judge and Juan Soto swap off the entire game and never have anyone else that could get out go hit?
Yeah, I think that some of the other rules that came in were to protect whether it was pace of play or to protect like player injury and the late inning stuff, like extra inning stuff. Like, I don't know that this serves a purpose except for entertainment, and it is an entertainment product, but I think it's an integrity of the game issue.
Yeah, I agree. Hard pass from me.
Yeah, I think it would be a hard pass from almost everyone. The games are nice and short. Let's just leave it how it is let's see if we can just keep the rules the same for just a couple years.
I don't know, man. Things change every offseason. There's like these huge changes now.
I think Manfred's got like an itch. He's like, I haven't changed a rule in about 18 months. I got to get one going. What do we got?
100%.
Let's get the people to Sloan Screen Time. Sloan is the world's leading manufacturer of commercial plumbing systems. The company is at the forefront of the green building movement and provides smart, sustainable, and hygienic restroom solutions by manufacturing water-efficient products, including flushometers, faucets, sink systems, soap dispensers, and fixtures for commercial, industrial, and institutional markets worldwide. To learn more, visit sloan.com. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything about my screen.
I had a tough day today. That's what you're going to say.
Are you the kind of podcaster that just we get late in the episode, you just yawn right into the microphone?
I didn't yawn. I was mocking your voice. Oh, mine's going to be pretty high today. That was the voice I did. I was like, oh,
it wasn't even a yawn. That was just, that's me.
That is you. I had a tough one. 2 hours and 18 minutes. I know. I was on it all day. That's you. That's you every week. And we're not putting up with it. Zach, what's your screen time? Go.
5:51 today.
Oh, ew.
Was up a little late.
That's gross. Tom, I feel good about mine. So I want Tom, if it doesn't work, I'm punching the screen.
4:34.
My time was 3:26.
3 hours flat for me.
That's just, see, even yesterday, you were just over 4, not even. Like, that's disgusting. I got 4 hours by noon yesterday. On a Sunday, I'm at 4 hours by noon.
Yeah, that's gross.
But your lines look good.
Lines.
Maybe
they played on Thursday though.
Maybe it was a little bit sketchy, but hey,
they beat your Bears.
Good.
Sorry,
Keep
man.
It going.
They beat your Bears. Shoot, you're a huge Bears fan.
I know it was a good. Yeah,
ruined
Bears
your whole
good.
Thanksgiving.
Bears look good. Really tough finish. Fired the coach. Maybe one of the Lions coordinators will end up being the Bears head coach, huh?
Those are the murmurs. I hope not, but those are the murmurs. Zach's already got dibs on the OC, so we'll see.
He ain't going there.
I don't think so either. I think you're going to get.
I'll do it.
I think I know who you're going to get, Zach. I think you're getting Vrabel.
I thought so too, but he's got too much Patriot blood in him.
Even better. He's got winning blood in him.
That's episode 236 of the Compound Podcast presented by Parse Rum. We will see you next week.
Rum.